record. And Anna, I usually take, if possible for you to make local recording, because once upon a time, it didn't record on the Zoom thing. And so let me see if I can do that. So allow to record. So you could take and go of Zoom and click record, I think. Let's see. You take and you go to yourself in the participant list. Were you able to do that, Anna?
Yeah, it says it's recording.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, one other question. Do you
Yes,
want,
sir. Yes, ma'am.
you want to make another commissioner a co-host so they can watch the waiting room for you?
Sure. Let's take a look at our participants. Maybe I'll disable the waiting room.
Ooh, that's a way to make the meetings more efficient.
Let's disable the waiting room. So now there is no waiting room, so that issue goes away. And let's look at the security. All right, I think we're good to go. Anything else, Mary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've answered all of my questions.
Well, thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow and preventing me from making mistakes. Someday you'll make a great chairperson.
Uh-oh. Sounds like a threat.
In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio video recorded. The agenda lists all the topics. Oh, let's start my video. Sorry about that. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed. And other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Please address all comments to the chair. This meeting of the Conservation Commission is being Zoom. The Zoom meeting ID is 812-8378-2929. And the passcode is 468905. However, I don't think it's being live streamed to broadcast tonight. If you're not already here, then that information doesn't really do you any good. Are there any announcements from members of the commission? Are there any announcements from members of the public? I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Ann Tree, who is our new conservation administrator. We are thrilled that she is with us. And and this is her first meeting.
Yes.
And Anna, usually I used to ask Nadia to do the screen sharing, but I think I'll do it tonight so we ease you in slowly, okay?
Okay, thanks.
And to do the screen sharing tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there are no public comments, minutes of the previous meeting, Rebecca previously shared the minutes of the meeting. I took and made some minor Scrivener, mostly Scrivener's requests, and shared those with the commission. And the edited minutes have been posted on our Google Drive, and I'm looking for a motion at this point to approve the minutes of November 16th, 2022, or discussion of the minutes, you know, because if somebody wants additional changes.
So moved on accepting the minutes, if there's no discussion.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have a second? Roll call vote. Oh, and I didn't do a roll call at the beginning of the meeting, so I guess this will suffice as a roll call. Rich Birch,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
and I for myself. Katie Childs will not be with us tonight. We have an appointment with Tracy Galoni, 23 Cove. I put this at the beginning as a courtesy to the Galonis because they've been through a lot on this. And rather than having them sit meeting. And
Thank
so as far as I can, before Nadia took and sent out an enforcement letter to the Galonis, and it contained a lot of inaccuracy. And it brought up things that are no longer relevant, and that had been previously addressed. Speaking for myself, as far as I can tell, the only open issue on this is the greenhouse slash shed, as far as I can tell. Tracy, would you agree with that? Or do you have anything more to say about that?
Nope, I agree. And again, greenhouse, not shed, difference, right? No foundation.
And so I'm going to do of the commission members to see where we all stand on, as far as I believe the greenhouse is like, the edge of this greenhouse is, I believe it's within 20 feet of the edge of the wetlands. And we don't normally allow structures. It's within 50 feet of the wetlands. And so I'd like to poll the membership here to see how they feel about this. Before I do that, Tracy, do you have any comments about why you think this greenhouse should be allowed?
Well, I think that we had talked about it collaboratively, right? When Matt was on board. And we talked about working together to come up with the solution. And part of that solution, we thought, was Matt coming out to the property. He had a conversation with the DPW as well. We did a bunch of plantings along the side of the shed, side of the greenhouse, as well as in the backyard to align with that. We can take pictures and send those, but there was probably no less than, what would you say, 10, 15 plants, I would say, we put in. And Matt was aligned with that. So that's all I have for comments.
Thank you so much, Tracy. So I'm going to start with Rich Burke. Feel about this greenhouse, Rich.
Unfortunately, I am not in favor of any structures within 30 feet or 50 feet for that matter, of the wetlands. I'm going to date myself here, but I was on a commission when this house was permitted and built back in 1996. And the left-hand corner, back corner of the house was 30 feet from the wetland at that time. Because I know we had stipulations, I believe it was John Esposito did the digging for the foundation. And he used a different excavator so that he could dig it from the roadside, not have to go around the back. So there have been wetlands out there since the house was built. So they've been filled slowly over time by different owners. Not saying that the current owners have done any filling at all, but I am not in favor of the greenhouse at this time.
Thank you, Richard. Mary.
I'm well, I'm trying to think of how to gather my words right.
Would you like me to come back to you, Mary?
Yeah, that would be nice, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. How about Mike LaRouche?
I like my other colleague about, the rules about 30, no structures within 30 feet of the wetland seems to be the general consensus. And I guess I would ask the applicant, how easily would it be to move that greenhouse at this point in time to make it comply with our current regulations.
Yeah, so we talked about this back in August of 2021 and definitely not easy to do. And I'll have Rob comment too, since he's here as well.
Yes, Mr. LaRoche, the reason why the spot was picked where it's at is because that's the only level property on this land. So there is really no alternative because it's mostly an incline or a hill in most of the other areas. That is the only flat piece of my property. I do realize the board has some concerns about the 30-foot mark. But I do want to point out too is that, with those new regulations, that's about 50% of my property, which puts us out as far as the use of our property. The other thing is one of the members made a comment earlier about when John Esposito did development on this property. And I have provided the board with some documentation, which is actually the deeds that were at the registry of deeds, as well as the original plan. And if you read that information that's provided, you'll see right there in those documents that that area that is the Conservation Commission seems to think it's wetlands originally was a stormwater culvert from stormwater drains coming from the road. That was supposed to be maintained by Hickory Hills, which has never been maintained, which has caused the flooding of that property. So I'd like the board to go back and review those documents because they are legal documents, and they were filed with the Registry of Deeds, as well as the original plan for Hickory Hills at the time that shows that due to a lack of maintenance over time resulted in our property being flooded. I'd also like you to take into consideration the fact that if this issue isn't resolved, and that culvert's not restored in order to drain the water, that there's a potential for more of our property to flood.
Thank you. I'm gonna go back to my straw poll. Mike, did that answer your question?
Well, it sounds like he's trying to say that because someone else didn't do their job, suddenly it's now caused an emergency that suddenly we have to vote on. And, I feel for the applicant in his plight, but, wouldn't this set a precedent for other applicants saying, I've got a flat piece of land, it's the only place where I can put something. However, it's within 30 feet of a wetland, and therefore that's where I want to put my structure. Is that what I'm hearing from the applicant, that's his only choice, or is his
That is, yeah. So, no, that is not accurate. That's not what I'm saying to you. What I'm suggesting is that this may not have even become an issue had people done what they should have in the past, ultimately resulting in the situation we're in now. So what I'm saying to you is I'm not saying to you that, hey, you should break the rules or bend the rules just for me. In no way am I suggesting that. What I'm asking for is a little bit of leniency here, because this is something that has transpired over time due to several people's involvement, which has resulted in our property flooding. And had it been maintained properly, the property would not have ever flooded, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation tonight. That's all I'm asking. I'm not suggesting that you try to change the rules or break the rules in any way whatsoever.
Thank you. Am I correct that the wetlands were actually, you hired someone to delineate the wetlands? I think Oxbow Associates or something like that?
Correct.
We did,
They
we
came
did,
out
Mr. Chairman.
and they delineated the wetlands there.
And we spent a lot of money on that, just to be
Yeah.
clear, to have that done. Actually-
I know you did. We're gonna go back to the straw poll. Jeff Viviano.
Yeah, Bob, I guess, I don't know, maybe my memory's not as good as most, but I just don't recollect this project at all. And to make a determination without any kind of information on it, I can't at this time. I'm not sure how long the greenhouse has been there, or how far it is from the wetlands, or if it's an open air greenhouse, or if it's closed in all season. There's just too many questions that I have to really.
What I recall is that when we did a site visit, we went out and looked at it. There were some foundation stones being placed structure wasn't there, we asked Matt to issue a cease and desist order that all work should cease. And after that time, the structure was completed.
Yeah. If I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just clarify something, that we actually have pictures that Matt took the time that you came out on the site, and the structure was complete. But to answer the board member's question, it is not an open air greenhouse. It does not have a permanent foundation. It's lined with plastic, basically, the same plastic you'd use for a traditional greenhouse. If that helps answer your question, but I would agree with you that making a determination without having all the information would not be fair.
We appreciate that. And it has been a year and a half, so I can see why you don't remember it.
I'm gonna go move on. Jeff, did you have anything more, Jeff?
No, that's it.
Rich Tremblay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the approximate size of this greenhouse?
It's about 10 by 10.
And what is the primary reason why it can't be moved?
Well, structurally, it would have to be completely dismantled in order to move it. And then there isn't anywhere on the property that doesn't have ground that is at an incline to where it could actually be reset. But even based on the new regulations, according to the new regulations on the new bylaws, there's nowhere on my property I can place this.
Did that answer your question, Rich?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And so, Rich, what's your thing about this greenhouse?
We need to move it.
Thank you. Mary Wilson, we're coming back to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me time to kind of gather my thoughts a little bit. I apologize to my fellow commissioners. My work day has gone from 7 until just about 7 today. So switching gears was a little bit challenging for me. Yeah, so if this were coming to us today, right, as something new and fresh, then clearly we would not allow the greenhouse to be installed in the position that it's in. And I have a lot of sympathy with the homeowners here because they've invested time and energy, not to mention the stress and worry about being on the, the naughty list with the Conservation Commission, right? And it is something that has lingered for a long time that, maybe as time persisted, right, allowed them to expect it to be concluded, all of which is unfortunate. But being unfortunate doesn't change our obligation with regard to administering the wetlands regulations. And so I don't see an opportunity in my mind to allow that greenhouse to persist in the current location.
Thank you, Mary.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
One minute.
Go ahead.
And so my feeling about it is that when I went out there on original site visit, the greenhouse was not complete. It was not an impervious structure. They were just at that point, it looked like it was going to be a shed. There was a frame, like a 2x4, 2x3 frame being put up. And we said all work should cease and the greenhouse was completed. And to me, given that scenario, we can't allow it to remain where it is. We should either give the applicant either to take it down or to submit an application, a modified an RDA to relocate it outside somewhere on the property outside the 50-foot no structure zone. And so I think we've heard from all the commissioners. I think the votes are there to move it, so that it can't remain where it is. And so I'm looking for a motion on this enforcement action relative to the greenhouse, because anything else in this enforcement order is
I would make a motion that we require the relocation of the greenhouse to some place that's permitted under the current wetlands regulations.
we have a motion by Mary.
Second. By
We have a
Mike,
second by Mike LaRouche. Roll call vote. Rich Birsch,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
And just because I found some pictures and I do remember this location and we have made a couple of site visits, so that's definitely.
okay, Mike LaRouche,
aye.
Mary Wilson,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
and I for myself. Did I call Rich Birsch?
Yes, you did.
Uh,
Aye.
I'm-
If you didn't, aye again.
I'm losing my mind here. I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Galoni, but this is where we stand. All your other issues are cleared up. I apologize that you got that letter that referenced all those other closed issues, and if you want to try to relocate it somewhere else on the property, I suggest you reach out to our new administrator, Anna Petrie, and work with her.
Nope, well, Mr. Chairman, we'll just take the greenhouse down, settle that problem. But while I've got your attention, I do want to clear up some inaccuracies. There was no further work done after the cease and desist was received. I have email correspondence with Matt Morrow indicating that is very clear, as well as the pictures he provided after your site visit. So I'm not sure why you feel that way, but that is not accurate. And like I said, I have dated correspondence that shows otherwise.
Thank you so much.
So how soon do we need to do this is the question.
I think we can give you, I'd be making something up here.
It certainly can't be done in the winter.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a suggestion?
All ears.
Given the situation that we're in, where the homeowners have had this thing hanging around for a long time, right, that they had hoped was closed,
Yep.
perhaps we could allow them a couple of weeks to think about when they can take it down reasonably and notify our administrator, and then we could, as a commission, vote on that at a following meeting.
Or we may not even need a vote, so long as we, so if you could work with, I like that. So work with Anna, to provide a schedule of when you think, you'll either relocate it or take it down. And she'll update the commission on it at a future.
Mr. Chairman, while we're at it, can I ask two additional questions, please?
Go ahead.
So two questions is that how does the Conservation Commission go about determining whether or not property is wetlands? And what records do you have on file that shows that this was designated as wetlands, and by who? Because I don't think that you ever furnished me with any engineering information or drawings or anything saying otherwise that conflicts with what I've already provided to the board. So I'm just kind of curious what the process is. And the other question would be is, based on this standard, any resident that was going to build within a certain footage on the new regulations would be required to file an NOI. And would that not also be provided to the DEP, the state DEP?
It's depending upon where they're going to build and whether it's going to impact, they'll either require it to file an NOI or an RD. We start with it's available on Mass GIS, which gives DEP wetlands, but those are not definitive. Really, we require a field delineation of the wetlands, and
Which the
did
county
that here.
does not have.
And you did that here. And so, all of our decisions here are based on that field delineation of the wetlands, which
Right, but Mr. Chairman, I did that in good faith and trust with the town, suggesting that it was wetlands. Prior to that, a delineation was never done by the town. So up until that point, it was just conjecture that it was wetlands. You didn't have the information to say it was wetlands prior to that. So that's why I'm asking the question. The other question I'm asking in regards to the NOI is based on the new regulations. The NOIs is public information. So I'm curious to know why other exceptions have been made in this neighborhood with the building of structures well within the 30 feet. And no NOIs have been filed.
And I am not aware, the commission is not aware, and the administrator is not aware of any other structures being built within 50 feet of the wetlands. You know of such instances. We don't go around inspecting everyone's backyard to see what's going on. I know that Hickory Hills Lake, which you're a member of Hickory Hills Lake, distributed a flyer to everyone who lives there about 3 years ago, I think it was now, that explained, when you have to take in, a file with the Conservation Commission when you're doing any
No, I'm trying to
activity.
clarify some questions.
And we trust that people are doing that.
So with that said, then this isn't a Hickory Hills issue. This is a Conservation Commission issue. And what has been done shouldn't have anything to do with Hickory Hills, nor should they have influence in this decision.
And so
That's why I'm asking the question.
also we took and we included that same flyer a year or two ago in bills. Every single person in town got it in their tax bill.
Yeah, but I can also show exceptions to the rule in where you have made exceptions to the situation as recently as this past year. So I know the board is standing firm. You've made your decision. I'll accept it. I'll take the greenhouse down. But it does seem like there's a little bit of pick and choosing when exceptions are made by the board, and I will question that, and I'll take that up to the town.
Thank you. We're going to move on now to the first public hearing.
Okay, so are we done now?
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you.
We have a new public hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Paul Carteret for of an existing timber retaining wall with a stone wall in place at 42 Pearl Street, and it has the DEP number of 208-1277. Who is someone here for this application?
Yes, sir. You have Chris Anderson with Hannigan Engineering.
Oh, all right. Hi, Chris. You want to share your screen? Or do you want
Okay.
me to do it?
Nope, I can do it. I've set up a couple pictures and stuff as well.
Let me make sure I got. Wait a minute, I got to allow screen sharing. Go ahead. I just allowed screen sharing, so now you can do it.
So can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Again, for the record, Chris Anderson with Hannigan Engineering, here to have Paul Carteret. For the replacement of an existing timber wall that's located at 42 Pearl Street. This property currently contains an existing house, driveway, the whole 9 yards, with an old timber retaining wall system that faces towards Lake Shirley. This retaining wall holds back approximately about 20 feet worth of land up towards the house. And at this point in time, the retaining wall is in a state of deterioration, and it's ending in coming towards the end of its useful life. So it's the intent of the applicant to replace that retaining wall system in place with a masonry block wall system to ensure its long-term longevity. As you can see here, I do have a few pictures showing the current state of the retaining wall. We have a few pictures from the top of the wall looking down. You can see the old timbers starting to decay away a little bit. And I got some side shots, and again, another top shot showing the retaining wall in its current state. So as you can see, it's pretty deteriorated, and it's coming to the end of its life.
And so, Chris, do I understand it correctly that this retaining wall is not lakeside? It's farther away from the lake?
Nope, it is lakeside. It does face the lake. So on the site.
No,
plans
but
themselves-
it's like, does it touch the water?
This is all located outside of the actual lake itself.
That's the question I was attempting to ask, and thank you for answering it.
No problem. So the only retaining walls that we're proposing to replace are located in this general area right here.
Yeah.
There's three existing 4-foot tall timber walls. It's the intent that we replace those in kind at the same commensurate elevation for the completion of construction, and there'd be a fall protection fence along the top edge to replace the existing guard post and rail fence that's there now. Will encompass the entire area of a straw wattle and silt fence along the shore, the lake shore line, if you will, for sediment migration. It was originally intended also to utilize a portion of Lake Shirley during lake drawdown for access. We don't believe it's necessary at this point, but we would like to get the commission's input on whether or not that would be acceptable. Access to that would be exclusively during the drawdown. We would walk the line with the commission and the administrator prior to anything happening to walk the line to make sure we're all in agreement. And before the lake rose again, all structures and all mitigation measures would be taken out of the lake to make sure that by the time the water was brought back up to the original intention or the right elevation, it would be all said and done. Other things is that we are requesting a waiver, obviously, from the 30-foot buffer zone because primarily the existing retaining wall is located within a portion of the buffer zone. But as we're essentially replacing in kind in place, feels a net zero loss towards the buffer zone's protection criteria, if you will. With that being said, that's the general intent of the plan. If there's any comments from the commission, we'd be more than happy to answer them. I would make one note that we did receive DEP file number, and they had no comment relative to this project.
Thank you, Chris. Questions or comments from the commission? Rich Tremblay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering what they thought that the lake bed may be necessary to be used for. And I'm also kind of curious what's going to happen to the railroad ties once they are removed.
So the lake bed was an alternative method of accessing the site. The site's pretty moderately steep going towards the lake. We've had conversations with one contractor who said that they couldn't get down the hill, but another contractor said no, they should be easily accessible from the existing side yard. So it's not intended to be utilized as the primary means of access, but it's an opportunity that if for some reason during construction it becomes difficult to get to, that route be taken. But obviously it's not the primary intent. The primary intent would be obviously to go through the upland and not be in the lake itself. As for the timbers, those would be disposed of accordingly. They wouldn't be kept on site. They would be removed from the property and disposed of per the current regulations, which I apologize, I'm not well versed on how they get disposed of properly, but they will be removed from the site and disposed of.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else, Rich? Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Hello?
Hi, Rich, go ahead.
All right. I did have a quick question. So you're proposing a possible means of access off of the lake side of the lowest wall, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And how
Very
are you
well
gonna,
system.
how are you going to get up over the existing wall from the, what's the height difference from the lake bed to the top of the wall?
So just to make sure I'm on the same page as you are, you're referencing within the lake to gain access to the area if that's the route that's so chosen.
Correct.
Correct. So that would be primarily just for the movement of materials, if you will. The walls come on large pallets and they can be kind of difficult to get down a hill. So it would be the only intent is that to get the materials physically down the hill safely. If that was not be able to done then the lake would be utilized, and that would be by a simple bobcat, lifting it up over the wall. And I believe the wall is only a few feet tall during drawdown.
So the materials could be brought in from the lakeside. How would you get to the lake bed to drive the materials over to the front of this house?
So on the Flat Hill Road, there's a portion of flatter area that's accessible.
Okay.
It is on an abutting property, but we would have to get permission from that before any kind of work would happen. So this is more of a contingency, if you will. If need be, we'll get the appropriate permissions from the neighbors to cross over into that area, but if there's a flatter lower portion along Flat Hill Road that's accessible.
Okay, I guess the only thing myself I'd like to see, if you were going to use that, if you would file for a field change and show us where on the lake bed you're going to be traveling, and you know, if it's torn it up at all, how you're going to put erosion protection up through there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can, we'll review that as a field change if that time comes. I did put provisions already into this plan for just straight straw wattles staked into the perimeter of the path that will be whatever it may be chosen. So, but I agree, we can definitely have that reviewed as a field change with the administrator and the commission when that time comes, if it does come.
Okay, so you'd be coming in off of Flat Hill, yeah, so you'd be traveling quite a little ways across the lake there.
Yeah,
The lake
a few
bed.
100 feet, yeah.
Okay, so at this point then I would recommend, if we do approve it, we approve it for off lake access, and if they need lake access, they have to come back.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, those are
Anything
my
else,
questions.
Rich?
Nope, those are all my questions.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Any questions or comments from members of the public? This is an NOI. I'm hoping someone will make a motion to approve this NOI with the caveat that Richard mentioned about is for access through the property, and if they want to access it through the lake, they have to come back for a field change.
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Richard Birch. Do we have a second?
Second by Mike.
Second by Mike. Roll call vote. Rich Birch.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Katie, Mike LaRouche.
Aye.
Mary Wilson.
Aye.
Richard Tremblay.
Aye.
Aye for myself.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris, do you have NOI number for your ANRAD?
Yes, sir. That came in at 5:03 p.m. to this afternoon.
Oh, all right, well, I don't have access to that, so you're gonna have to read. So pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. In the Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation by JMC/TBG Lunenburg 2 LLC for 400 Lunenburg Leominster Shirley Road. And so once again, Chris, why don't you share your screen? And
Again, for the record, Chris Anderson with Handy Engineering here on behalf of JMC TBG Lunenburg 2 LLC. We were before the commission last meeting for a ANRAD filing for a series of bordering vegetated and isolated vegetated wetlands that are located on the westerly portion of 400 Leominster Shirley Road. We continued at the last meeting pending a DEP file number, which we did receive late this afternoon. Only comment, DEP file number I should state is 208-1281. Only comments that did come from this were relative to the isolated land or the isolated vegetated wetland being potentially qualifying as an LSS, which would make it jurisdictional under the state regulations, but Based on the Lunenburg bylaw, that's a moot point as isolated wetlands are subject to protection under the Lunenburg bylaw. So we did delineate several isolated wetlands throughout the property, and those are shown on the plans and are intended to be subject to review of any future development that occurs on the property. And the second comment is again relative to the isolated wetland being subject to a 401 water quality cert if it is deemed necessary based on work and other jurisdictional requirements that might be coming from it. But
And
just
they
to bring
also
the commission-
said, they also said that we might want to consider a third-party review for a large and complex site.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Back up to speed. This is the westerly portion of the PJ Keating operations. Most of the site has been historically utilized as a mining operation, but at this point in time, the site has effectively revegetated itself with the miscellaneous fauna, be it natural and not natural vegetation. But currently there are several wetlands. We have one isolated wetland that was previously delineated under the Lunenburg Central development that's located across the street. We've effectively expanded upon that. Also based on our historical review of the PJ Keating operations, this once upon a time was a sediment basin that was utilized. But at this point in time, all functions of that have been ceased. So that this pond area has effectively reverted itself to a wetland. And then this drains towards a larger, broader bordering vegetated wetland that continues off-site. We have a small isolated vegetated wetland that's located within the power line easement. It's kind of shared between a few pages, so I apologize. But that's a small isolated one that's located under the power lines, and it's primarily caused by just the general earth moving and damming of the water flowing through this area. But nonetheless, it is holding wetland vegetation and is considered an isolated wetland. From there, we expand over into a broader bordering vegetated wetland that runs along the westerly property line with the town of Lunenburg's water supply well. And then another larger isolated wetland, again, subject to the wetland protection or the subject to the Lunenburg bylaw, which then ultimately drains into, I apologize, a much larger, again, broader wetland series that share between the town of Lunenburg and the town of Shirley. That being said, I would note that Matt Murrow, we've had several commission administrators out there, Matt Murrow as well as Nadia Madden, walk the site, review it. When Nadia was under her tenure, we did provide additional plot markings for some smaller areas throughout the site at her request. But I think at this point it's been reviewed by several agents, and I will leave it at that. If there's any comments from the commission, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Are there any comments or questions from commissioners? I would say that I went out there and did a site visit before the last hearing because I felt someone should, because no one else had. I don't think the delineation of the wetlands in this site is terribly complex. And I think my personal opinion as one commission member that the fact that it was viewed, the delineation was viewed by both Matt, Nadia, and they both expressed satisfaction with the delineation is good enough for me. But I'm only one member. Are there any comments or questions from members of the public? If there are none, I'm looking for to approve this delineation of wetlands.
So moved, Mike.
Second by Mary.
Roll call, if there's no further discussion, roll call. Rich Birch,
There's the button. Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you. Um. Anything else, Chris?
I think I'm all set.
I think. Good night.
Have a good night.
Pursuant to, I'm gonna open all three of these public hearings since there's a lot of overlap between them. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. Number Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. The public hearing on a notice of intent by Elaine Normandin for a proposed replacement of a retaining wall at 47 Round Road, number 2081278. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Public Hearing. A notice of intent by Renee Rainville for a proposed replacement of a retaining wall at 57 Round Road, DEP number 20819. And pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Mark Sprague for a proposed replacement of a retaining wall at 73 Round Road, DEP 1280. I would note that all these DEP numbers were issued last week, and the DEP issued the same set of comments for all three applications to the effect that they wanted the plans to clearly show that it wasn't going to impact the floodplain is what their comments are intended to convey. Who do we have here tonight for? Oh, Matt Murrow. Matt, are you here for these applications?
Yes, sir.
Take it away, Matthew.
I was going to say, may I share my screen?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Let's see if I can find the right screen first.
I'm trying to get our new administrator to get a second screen and a license to Adobe Acrobat.
Oh, that would be very useful. I have a license myself and it comes in very, very handy.
Well, town should be furnishing that to our administrator, in my humble opinion.
Preaching to the choir on that one, Mr. Chair. So just to review to the members, we have retaining walls that were historically present that are being replaced. I know the commission's walked the site. We went over some photos. And at that point, we were waiting for just the DEP number and comments. So the DEP comment regarding the floodplain, I went back to Mr. Oldfield and he was able to get a revised plan, which this is, to the office. I was able to email it to Rebecca last week, last Wednesday. So essentially, Mr. Oldfield has clarified these plans, and he's also included a revision note in here, which I don't know if you guys can see it, but it was dated November 30th, and it basically says that all the, let me shrink this down so I can get there better. It's hard to read with this PDF, the way he had to format it for color, but it says the top of the wall will be the existing elevation. And it was noted that he revised it based on DEP comment, and the revision date was November 30th. So he made it clear on the plans that the wall is going to be the same height that it was. And the other comment DEP had, interestingly enough, was Judy Schmidt, who made the comment, wanted to know about the timbers and how they would be removed. And I sent her an email that day that the comments came in, letting her know that the timbers are basically dangling, and you don't even need an excavator to go in there and take them down. They can be removed. They can be pulled right out by, a couple of guys and some, with some muscles. And Brett Ramsden routinely disposes of these. He knows how to dispose of them properly. She never replied to my email, and based on my experiences in dealing with my own NOIs that I filed, if they did have a further concern, I would have received a response immediately. So with that, I'll leave it to the commission.
We have any questions or comments from members of the commission? On any of these three NOIs? We're gonna vote on them separately. In my humble opinion. Jeff Viano.
Yeah, I just have a question. It seems like a portion of the walls that are existing are actually further away from the lake bed itself. Like the water never reaches them. So are you planning on moving those retaining walls closer to the lake, or are they going to stay at their existing condition? I guess
No, actually, if they go in, they'll go in, they'll actually go in a little bit more, like about 6 inches to a foot closer.
okay.
That actually does, the high water mark does reach those, well, most of the walls, with the exception of one part of Mrs. Normanden's wall. And that's not going to go any closer to the lake. The way Brett does his walls, he basically, when he goes to dig in, he digs in from behind the walls or where they were located, gets everything situated so that he can then install the new walls. So there won't be any filling of floodplain, lake body, no changes in elevation, no changes in length. So the new structure would essentially replace identically the old structure, with the caveat that it might go in a little bit. So they may lose a little land, but it's better than what they're going through right now because they've got some serious erosion issues there.
Yeah, I guess that was my concern, is that it seemed like there was about 60 or 80 feet of wall that looked like it was about 6 feet away from where the water edge is. So the wall doesn't really serve much of a purpose there. And there's nothing really much behind it. So, I mean, I have a picture if you'd like to see it, but if I can.
I'll leave that up to you, but it's just, we've got a lot of creosote walls that are essentially disintegrating.
Yeah. But if the intent is to reduce erosion, there's a large section of this area that it's not going to reduce erosion at all because it doesn't even come close to reaching the water, in my opinion. But,
Well, that was just part of it. The other part was to replace the wall. And if anything, that would make it less impactful because it's not in the water.
okay. And then there's also areas that are notated where it's called timber and it's actually concrete. There's like, there's probably about a 40-foot section over on that center. Well, I guess it's to the east of that beach area that you have, where it's actually concrete. It's not timbers, and then it just kind of ends. And then the timbers pick up on the neighbor's property for a little bit. So it's not one continuous timber wall, is I guess what I'm trying
No,
to get at.
well, that's why I filed 3 NOIs. They're 3 individual walls that overlap 3 property lines in pieces. And that's a good catch. I didn't realize that note said timber wall. That was an error. It should have said concrete. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a red dashed line across the properties that indicate that there's a timber wall. And I would say probably 30% of that is not a timber wall, or it's not even anything at all.
I'll just have that note replaced.
Well, it's not a note, it's on the plan as a red dashed line saying
Yeah,
it's a timber wall.
I'll have that replaced so that it doesn't show as a timber wall.
So now we're going to put walls in where there aren't walls.
No, there are walls there. I clearly showed at the last meeting that there were historical walls.
Okay.
I do recall that. Anything more, Jeff?
No, that's about it.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? On any of the,
I did have a
NOI.
comment, Mr. Chairman, and this is
All right.
supplemental to what Jeff Viviani had said. And Jeff, I remembered seeing those concrete walls. I was just flipping through my photos, but they appeared to be like discrete kind of 4-foot concrete sections. And at least some of them, were like partially falling into the lake already. And even though, there they are, I couldn't see them in some of the sections around there. I think I kind of just assumed that there had been other sections in that property that had just fallen into the lake and weren't visible from the surface. But you're right, there were a couple of places where there was like cattails and
Yeah,
whatnot.
exactly.
Yeah,
in that area.
growing. Yeah,
Which is, yeah, kind of a important area to maintain, I guess, that existing ecosystem.
that's all,
Actually,
Mr. Chairman.
If I may,
Thank you,
in that section, I had shown photos, I can't find them right now, but I had showed the commission photos of the foundation of the walls that had fallen in and aren't there anymore, that were next to the areas that had fallen in. So,
Any comments or questions from members of the public? I don't think we actually have any public with us, and oh, maybe Anthony, please. Rich Birch,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, did we have a schedule of construction? Days, weeks, or are they gonna try to get it all done during the one drawdown, or will they need multiple years to do it?
no, it'll be done during this drawdown.
Okay. And you can access everything from the property. You don't have to come across the lake bed anywhere.
No, you don't.
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
that
you,
was
Mr.
brought up at a previous hearing, Rich. They would do all the work from behind the wall.
Yep, I remember talking to him about it, and I just, the schedule of event, or the schedule of construction, I didn't remember going over reviewing.
And I don't think we have seen a schedule of construction, but certainly that could be put in as a condition in a motion.
Mhm. Thank you.
Given the general lack of comments and stuff, someone will start with a motion for 47 Round Road.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve 47 Round Road, construction not to commence until after construction meeting with the commissioner and the agent, and schedule of construction to be presented.
Second by Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. I'm looking for a very similar motion for 57 Round Road.
I would make the same motion for 57 Round Road.
Thank you, Rich. Do we have a second?
Second
Se-
by Mike.
Second by Mike. You gotta be quicker, Mary.
I know.
So, roll call vote. Rich,
Aye.
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 Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. And I'm looking for a similar motion for 73 Round Road.
I would make the same motion, Mr. Chair, for
Second.
73 Round Road.
Mary says second.
Mary said second. She was quicker this time. All right, so seconded by Mary. Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Kate, Mike,
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Thank you, Mary. Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. Any questions, Matthew?
No, I appreciate all the very good questions.
Though it wasn't in motion, you will be submitting a revised plan that shows that identify concrete wall.
Yep, I will submit the revised plan. I will also submit the construction schedule at the same time. And of course, I will do the pre-construction meeting with Anna, and any other commission that wants to come out at the same time is perfectly fine. And Anna, if when the order is done, I can either come pick it up or you can mail it to me. Just let me know because I want to make sure it's properly recorded,
Will do.
or all three of them, I should say.
Will do.
Thank you.
No, thank you, guys.
All right. I'm gonna skip new business for now and come back to that. Old business, 192 in Townsend Harbor, I think we can take that off for future agendas. And 104, and I gotta go back again and knock on the door again, see if we can't get a hold of these people. New year, I'll try several more times. And if not, then I'm just gonna go to the town attorney and ask the town attorney just to send him. Actually, I'm gonna go to the Board of Selectmen and ask the Board of Selectmen to authorize the town attorney. Because we don't have the power to do that. I have to ask the Board of Selectmen to do that. At the last meeting, I gave a budget update. Changed about the budget. I think it should be in the cloud from the last time. I think upwards of 60 grand in the Hollis Road account or Hawes account. And there upwards of 20 grand in the timber rights fund with coming in from the Hawes property cut. Trendly so graciously out and did a site visit, a site inspection with the forester and with the forester Gary Goldrup and with the harvester, and they identified some places debris had to be taken away so that there were continuous trails. And yeah, got anything else to report on that, Richard?
I knew the work was supposed to be done. I haven't gone back to follow up on that. Should I do that?
Well, why don't we wait to hear from Gary? Gary always is saying, well, it'll be done by this time, and then you find out, no, it was done at some later time. So rather than spend our time, he was going to take and meet with me like 2 weeks ago to go over and take a look at where the landing zone was going to be on the Reno property, and that hasn't happened yet. So rather than go over there to see if it's been done, I think we should reach out to Gary first to see, is he ready for that such a visit before we, put any time into performing such a visit.
Sounds good.
But appreciate your willingness to go out there on short notice and take a look. Anything update on the Hollis Road residents?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I wanted to just share this sad news that one of the pollinator habitat volunteers, Linda Hilson, her father, who was 87, passed away this past November 28th in his sleep. So I just wanted to extend our condolences to the family, but I wanted to let the commission know that had occurred. Also, we did finish the floor. I may have sent some pictures on the shed, and we also, and that was thanks to Rick Hilson, Linda's husband, who helped big time in making that happen. I realize how hard it is to do a day's work in construction. So whatever help I did was minimal, given that I had the foreman telling me what needed to get done, and we did get it done together. And so that is a big plus. And also we got our lawnmower back, all fixed, sharpened, new belts and new gasoline, and with the thanks of Nick Piero, who helped us out getting rid of some of the old time lawnmowers that were just strewn along the property. And he also extended that he's willing to do more for us as a Lunenburg resident. And I had a question. There are some items he wants to help remove if the commission so feels that that might be appropriate. There's some other older pieces of equipment abandoned in along that shed area. But there are two items that are in particular, I have no idea how they got there, and maybe the commission knows. Those of you who've been here for a while, looks like an old antique truck as well as a camper in the backyard of our tenant. I have no idea what the history is of that. And
Have you discussed it all with the tenant?
I have not. But
I suggest before we start taking things out of there, we discuss it with the tenant.
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to know if anyone had some thought, if you've been to the property at all and noticed any items in the backyard. They look like they've been there for a while, but I will certainly do that with Corinne Jones, the tenant. We do have upcoming the 12th, which is this coming Monday. The window project is to begin and hopefully finished on that one day. All the windows will be replaced, as well as the sliding glass door panes will be replaced. And the other piece that we have coming up, we have had some we're working on the kitchen project with cabinet replacement and counter replacement. And I'm working with Julie Bellevaux on that particular project as well. We don't have all the numbers in yet, but we're hoping to collect that and bring that into the Conservation Commission just to know where we're at and understanding the budget. Have not released any information to any of the approaching vendors what our budget is, but so far everything's come in way within budget. So I'm looking forward to getting numbers for electricians and plumbers, as I only have numbers for material at this time. The last thing is we do have a furnace cleaning appointment coming up on January 16th by Cam's Heating. For some reason, I thought it was like a $290 or so visit, but I'm going to have to revisit that because I don't remember what they had quoted me. But but we do have the date for the cleaning of their heating system before winter really sets in. So that's so far what I have for Hollis Road. Oh, yes, I may have sent you a picture, Mr. Chair, of a tree that fell down on the habitat. And fortunately, it was the day we were receiving our lawnmower, and Nick Pirro was kind enough to take his chainsaw and chainsaw the pathway. So there's no longer any obstruction going through the pollinator habitat through their pathway because the tree's been removed. And we're starting a little habitat with the down tree, and hopefully they're light as a feather. Apparently, when a tree is standing dead, there's not much left to it. So maybe we'll create a habitat for other creatures.
Nursery.
So I think that's it.
Thank, very complete, and thank you for all the work you do over there.
You're welcome, Mr. Chair.
And look at that, you know, yesterday's applicant is today's volunteer. You know, Nick Pirro, you know, so.
Exactly.
administrative certificates of compliance, 57 and 63 Crossroad. Anna, can you take us through those? I hope. And you're muted.
There we go. Unmute. Let me find it in class really quick.
While you're doing that, I'm going to see what Mr. Cleves has to say here.
Okay, yep.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let you know the reason I was on this meeting was in case any of the commission members had any questions on these two certificates of compliance.
Thank you so
So-
much, Anthony.
Thank you.
And Anthony, are you with somebody? Are you one of the owners, or what's your
Yep, so-
relationship?
Yeah, again, my name is Anthony Cleves. I'm with Haley Ward. We prepared the certificate of compliance application and as-built plans for Matson Homes.
Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you.
Anna, are you familiar with these applications?
So I'm not, because I haven't done like any of the site reviews on these. But yeah, I will say I'm not familiar with these two properties.
Anthony, would you like to present these?
Sure. Let me,
Do you have to share your screen? Or is there something to be shared?
Yes, we'll start with 57 Cross Road. I submitted the certificate of compliance form as well as a letter as required by WPA Form 8A in your order of conditions. Basically, to summarize my letter, we found that the work had substantially complied with the approved plan, with the following exceptions. An HVAC unit, as is typical with single-family homes, was installed in the back left corner right up against the house. Some paver walkways. Sorry, that was 63, 57. There was a buried propane tank that was installed that we hadn't shown the plans. And there was crushed stone edging placed around the perimeter, or most of the perimeter of the house, basically for a drip edge. The other thing to note on this one, and you may recall, on this project, we had proposed a boulder retaining wall along the back of the house. We'd proposed it as kind of, if we found boulders, we were going to use them on site instead of removing from the site. So we had proposed that on the plan. During construction, they did not have extensive boulders, so that wall did not go in. So it was just the slope that we had proposed as another option. So, but in summary, basically, it was substantially complied with the plans that you had approved with those following notations.
And am I correct that the wetlands here is at the top edge of the screen there?
Correct. Yep. So we have the
And
wetlands.
so
Yep.
all this, all of this activity is outside of the, oh, I see the no build zone. Okay, so it is within
Correct.
the 100, but it's not within the 50.
Exactly. Yep. So it's pretty much, and we staked the houses out. Everything, pretty much went exactly to how you would approve the plans. Also, you'll see that the existing silt fence is still in place. That has not been removed yet. So obviously, the contractor would wait till you issue a certificate of compliance before we remove that. All of the areas of disturbance from the construction are stabilized. If you'd like, I did take pictures of the site. If that's of helpful for you, I can certainly put those up for you to take a look at too.
Are there any comments from members of the commission? I'm looking for a motion to approve the certificate of compliance.
So moved by Mike.
Second by Richard.
Thank you. Motion and second, roll call, Rich.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. Take us on 63 Cross Road.
So those of you that were here may remember these lots are basically side by side. So this 63 is to the right of the one you just were taking a look at. Oops, sorry, that's the proposed plan. The as-built plan. Oh, that's the proposed plan. Sorry. Here we go. So very similar to the adjacent lot, everything was built in substantially compliance with the order condition and the approved plans. Very similar exceptions. Also, AC unit in the back left corner of the house. Some paver walkways had gone in along the front of the house to get you from the driveway up to the front, and some in the back there. And then also the crushed stone drip edging went around the perimeter of the house as well. This one did not have a retaining wall proposed as an option, and that stayed consistent. Wetlands, same thing along the back edge of the property. 30-foot buffer zone, no work occurred within that. Silt fence still in place along the edge. 50-foot buffer zone as well here, where the driveway and house were built outside of that zone. So very similar to the adjacent lot.
Any questions or comments from members of the commission? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve this certificate of compliance.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I did have one quick question. How big is a
Absolutely,
propane?
Richard.
How big's a propane tank? Where the other one was outside the 100-foot, it really wasn't germane to the discussion, but this one's within the 100-foot.
Yeah, it's I don't know the exact size. It is a buried propane tank, so all we could locate was the cover. But typically, I don't think these are much more than 50 gallons, 50 to 100 gallons is my understanding. But the only thing you can see above grade is just that access cover.
Okay.
Your typical residential, smaller buried propane.
And there's no driveway to it. They just drag the hose out to it.
Correct. Yep. It's all grass along that edge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second by Mike.
All right, motion is second. Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
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 Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Anthony. Nobody here left but us chickens. Only members of the commission and associate commissioners left. Anna, have you had a chance to look at any of these enforcement actions yet, or you're muted, Anna? You're still muted.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. Anyway, so I tried to go through some of them. One of them was definitely in contact with me a lot. It was for 48 Oak Ridge. She was in contact with me mostly in regards to having an extension for the violation, just because it was like a weird in-between time where I was just getting on and no one really responded to her email. But I looked into it and I told her, if anything, before the 30th, I believe it was, that November 30th, that she needed to submit a at least an RDA just to show that she was acknowledging the enforcement order, because she was not aware of what a restoration plan was or like what to do in that situation. Also, she didn't know why she was receiving this enforcement order. Because the enforcement order was for the roofing structure that was apparently on the patio instead of the deck. So that property owner originally had a NOI for a deck installation. And the enforcement order is for the existing patio, but it was a roofing structure. It was a permanent roofing structure that they had put on. So she doesn't wish to dispute it, though she doesn't want anyone to be on the site as well to look at what has happened. So I just told her as far as right now, and I also asked her to attend this meeting. And she said she would, but clearly she's not. So as far as that, she hasn't been in contact with me, but I did receive an RDA from her. So that's the only enforcement order so far that has really come forward with anything to my.
And so I would ask if by the next meeting, I know you only been on the job for a very short period of time. If you could take and try to go through these. It is potentially possible, before she left, Nadia tried to tidy up a lot of things, you know, and issue letters. And it could be we have some other situations like 23 Cove Road, where she issued a letter and, you know, and she wasn't totally up to speed on all of these. Some of these enforcement orders been hanging around a long time. None, I don't think any as long as Cove, but you know, so it could be we have some house cleaning to do here.
Yeah.
Housekeeping and but if you could take and you know, familiarize yourself with these and try and visit the sites, that'd be great, because I don't see that we have a lot of other stuff coming down the pike before the next meeting, unless you know something I don't.
No, just pretty much following up with those, because I also looked through the file and there was like a little stack of them that no one has really reached out. So I'll just have to continue to reach out and try and see if I can get some site visits and also them to kind of comply and see what they can submit. So.
Okay. I haven't done anything about reaching out to the selectmen about the Howard Street driveway. I already gave a little update on you know, where Gary Goldrip and the timber sales. Basically, cutting is done on the Hollis Road. And they were supposed to finish the cleanup, you know, both on the Hollis Road property and also on the Water District property, because the landing zone is on the Water District property. And then on the Reno property, but he was gonna go over with me because the forester wanted to take and move the landing zone to a different spot than Gary had planned out. And you know, and I said, I want that, or have someone from the commission look at that, you know, before that happened, and that hasn't happened yet. And conservation. Mary, have you gotten your okay to proceed letter yet on your trail riders, snow riders
I
grant?
haven't. Today, the Mass Trails did a initiation meeting with the grant awardees.
Yep.
And so we still have a couple of more actions to execute on before we get the final, you know, permission to proceed on the grant. But it's getting close. I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks.
And so if and when Mary gets going on her grant, the Conservation Commission has committed to furnishing the materials for building 4 more kiosks. I found out after a fairly excellent meeting with Karen, the town treasurer, that we can just take, we don't have to initiate new purchase, because we can just increase the amount. And so, I was thinking we should increase the amount of the PO at Mackey's by $1,000, but I think I should have a little figures, and so I'm gonna defer that to the next meeting. So I can tell you, this is how much money we have left, and this is what we spent on the kiosk last time. So I'm not just shooting from the hip, but I do think before the end of the year, we should take and authorize an increase in that PO, so that there's enough money there so we can go out and get the materials for the kiosk. Mary, sometime you have to come down to the Woodlands and I can show you all the materials we have in our treatment building down here. I think we have enough shingles for one kiosk, and there's some up in there we can use, so.
Excellent.
Any updates on committee reports?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, before you move on, the last meeting, I gave an update on the Cowdrey Bridge redecking that
Oh,
the
that's
Lindbergh
right,
Snow
yep.
Riders were doing.
Yep.
And they still had, at the time I reported, the bridge had been redecked, but we still had to remove the older decking debris from the trail.
Yep.
I was not able to support that follow-up trail work party with my friends there, but I've heard from them that they have removed that debris now. Now I'm still going to go out there and just verify, right? Pick up any
And-
incidentals, but I
And-
expect that it's pretty much done now.
And do you have a place to get rid of it, Mary, without incurring expense?
We do actually have a trail rider member who has appropriate disposal receptacles at their place of work, and do have approval to get that PT lumber appropriately disposed of.
Score, excellent.
Yes.
Excellent, because I think in the past, sometimes we've leaned on the DPW to get rid of it. If we can't do it internally.
Oh, okay, that's good to know too. But yeah, we did manage to get that removed without incurring cost.
Well, all I know is that anytime, from time to time, people, their old furniture and other stuff at various parking, conservation and parking.
Oh, gosh.
places. And when that happens, we just reach out to the DPW, they come and get them and they get rid of them. So they must have a way to get rid of stuff, so.
Very nice.
All right. So then I'd like to go back to, Mary is interested in pursuing a grant for the Conservation Commission, and I wanted to take and I was gonna get all prepared for tonight's meeting, and my life got in the way and I got sick. I'm not really totally ready, but I still want to have a discussion tonight. And so I'm going to share a screen here of a document I was sort of working on. Screen share. And I apologize for not being more,
Mr. Chairman, can we blame your grandchildren on you being sick?
no, you can't. Although I have no idea. I did take my grandchildren into C6 on Sunday. And then I got sick shortly after that. Maybe we can blame it on 6.
There you go.
Although my wife is always in charge, and so I did wear a mask the entire time I was at the play. All right, so now let's see if I can share the screen. Screen 2. Let's see. Get rid of this, get rid of this. Are you looking at something that says Northwest Town Forest?
Yes.
All right, and so once upon a time, um, we had said we would take and try to put we own this piece of property right here. We own this piece of property right here. We do not own this piece of property right here, but we are after this piece of property through the tax title process. And once upon a time, we had been saying that we wanted to take and run a trail up through here, through this property, and acquired this so we could have, access to the Northwest Town Forest. We permitted the people on this lot to take and do a rear drive, and we found that there's extensive wetlands through this area right here. And so I thought, well, gee, maybe there's extensive wetlands here. And went out and I looked, and there is extensive wetlands here, and I think we should that's my humble opinion, and people are welcome to go out and do their own site walk, that we should abandon any plans to try and provide an entrance to the Northwest Town Forest through this property. It's just a morass of wetlands.
Mr. Chairman, when you say access, do you mean cart path?
I mean
no
a cart path. I mean a
Okay.
cart path. I mean, I
So a
suppose
foot
it's
trail
possible-
might be possible.
I'm sorry, say that again?
A foot trail might be possible.
A foot trail might be possible, but I think it would only be useful when the ground was frozen.
Hmm.
And I don't know how you would make it when the ground was unfrozen, because you're gonna be like putting your foot down, try to pick it up, your boot stays behind. It's
I
really
understand that exact scenario.
Yes. I'm all.
That's not
super
fun
familiar with
hiking.
that. Huh?
That is not fun hiking.
It's
it's not
expensive.
fun.
You have to keep buying boots.
Right. The boots are lost in the process. and-
So, but I'm suggesting to the commission, we could take at some point and look at establishing a cart path over here, but that's not something I'm interested in pursuing. I think at this point, I think we should punt on this and say, when the O'Brien property is developed, establish a trailhead with parking at a kiosk, because when the O'Brien property is developed, it's my understanding, I've been told by the town land use director, the first time he pulls any building permit up there whatsoever, there's a large tract of land in the back, which will become conservation land, property of the Conservation Commission, and it will provide us direct access off of one of his proposed roads into the property. So I'm thinking we shouldn't be pursuing anything out here right now. This is-
I blinked while you were talking, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. The owner of the O'Brien property owes parking access as well?
Well, we'd have to establish parking access. I mean, the O'Brien,
I'm not looking for him to, invest
Yeah.
materials, but the physical
have-
land to be able to install
Take-
parking.
Let me see if I can't call up.
I just feel like parking's such an instrumental, critical part of trail access,
It-
right?
it
It would
is.
make no sense in my mind if he only had to, provide us permission. Like we can put the kiosk on the land, we have the trail on the land, but if we don't have access to parking, I guess we would put the parking on our land and not on his land.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we would put on our land, and that would be challenging, and we could spend a whole evening talking about that,
It might
Which I'm
require a
not-
beer.
which I'm not proposing to do tonight. I was gonna go through all the different conservation lands and say,
Mhm.
and have a preliminary discussion tonight, and hopefully have a more complete document by next time, because the grant application is due at the very.
Time is tight, yes.
So time
Um,
is,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question about the 615 and 573 West Townsend Road
you betcha.
opportunity? Why is that also not favored?
Well, the person, right now, the town has a legal. You see where that yellow line is right here that I'm
Yes.
sort of going over with my cursor? The town has a legal right of way, which they purchased through that property.
Right,
And there's no path through there. And the person who owns this house is not thrilled about it. And the thing that works against this, in my opinion, is there's no parking here. And there's no good place to park. It's only our right of way. So we'd either have to take and create a parking area all the way in the back
mhm,
with all the attendant problems of a remote parking area. We
Yeah.
don't usually want a remote parking area. Because, you know,
it invites mischief.
they invite mischief. And that'd be a lot of work. You know, to gravel that all the way through there, although the land looks pretty dry.
Right, but
I
the purpose of doing if I may, Mr. Chairman, the purpose of doing the grant is to get us funded to have a lovely
Yep.
contractor do all that hard work.
That's very true. Very true. And so it's my humble opinion as just one person, that we should just exercise some patience here, although the patience may be 5 more years, and try and establish, you know, some superior access through the O'Brien property, but it and thing won't come to fruition for a long time yet, because I see I think it's highly possible that we'll be going back to court with Mr. O'Brien over the 40B and
Well, yeah, it's certainly not obstacle free, the
Yeah.
O'Brien path, but this might not be the highest priority thing to look at. I think you had some other ideas that I wasn't
Yes,
meaning
I
to
did.
derail your conversation. I just wanted to be clear on your thoughts behind it.
Yeah. But Mary, if you have ambition grant to establish, you know, to hire, you know, somebody to do such a road, you know, by all means, because
I have ambitions, Mr. Chairman, but
I
that
know
might not be
you're
the
an
best place to
ambitious
spend
person.
them.
Okay, Table Rock. To me, Table Rock, we should either, right now, the accesses Table Rock up through Old Stagecoach Road. And the people that live here, again, put up a no trespassing sign, a private road, no public access. And the people who live here aren't that thrilled with people using this road either. And right now, when you go up there, Table Rock is right over here, way on the edge of the property, and there really isn't a good path to it. And so I was thinking that we should either take and establish a better parking area across the street on
The Parks
Parks
property.
Parkland, or we should take and try to take, Matt Murrow supposedly is gonna go out on Monday and delineate the wetlands. There's a wetlands that goes right along here in the front. And he's gonna delineate the wetlands to see, is there somewhere we could take and sneak a driveway in here and put a parking area just on the other side of the wetlands, so it's, you know, close enough to be seen from the road. So you don't have the whole evils of, you know, remote parking area. And in either case, you know, build a trail, you know, up through the middle of the property, so we're not, you know, interacting with the abutters here, and goes directly to Table Rock, which is supposed to be like the key thing here. And so I went and I spoke to Greg Roy about, will he be willing, if we're gonna do a parking area, or we would need to file an NOI, and we would probably need to go before the Planning and Zoning Commission. For both of those, we would probably need an engineered plan. And so one thought was we could take and do a planning grant do a planning RTP grant, where Greg would give us a quote now that he'd hold for over a year. You know, for what it would take to design a parking space there, which is why I wanted Matt to flag the wetlands. Now, Matt Morrow has volunteered to flag free of charge these wetlands. Because honestly, he can't. It takes money out of his pocket if we were to pay him to do it. He'd rather donate the time. And so that's one thing we on Table Rock. Another thing we can do on Table Rock, a kiosk at the Howard Street entrance once we get the driveway in up there. Follow the driveway up at Howard Street, put a kiosk up there. At some point in the future, we could reroute the trail, come in from New West Townsend Road that sort of skirt, they're sort of on the edge of conservation land or they're on the budding land. And we could take and reroute them so that they're clearly on conservation land. And there's areas of Old Stagecoach Road that basically are morasses. And we could take and grant, you know, sooner rather than later to take and hire somebody to bring in, you know, like processed gravel and stuff to those places where the road is either underwater or it's a soggy morass with no drainage. So it's really not usable for like 4 months of the year.
Mr. Chairman, I did get out there a few weeks ago and measure a couple of those big boggy, well, not boggy, it's just flat out wet areas too. So I have measurements on a couple of those.
Super. You know, and then volunteer things, we've already had people out there a couple times removing trash by the old house sites. And at some point we should look into getting rid of the that are on the southeast corner of the property. There's a bunch of 1950s cars junk cars on the southeast corner of the property.
Is
But
that
those-
adjacent to Northfield Road? There's like the property abuts Northfield Road in two places.
Yeah,
Right.
it's actually the junk cars are right down. Let's see, this is the property. It goes up, it goes around here. They're right here.
Oh, okay.
They're right there in this corner of the property right over. And the trouble is how to get them out of there.
And yeah. So on that section of property where it abuts Northfield Road, is that also all wetlands?
It's fairly wet over there, and I haven't really gone in I haven't done a field site, you know, I haven't walked it.
I've just driven past it. There's not really a good
Yeah.
place to pull over there.
Yeah,
But I'm just wondering if that might be a plan B, if like the first proposed area ends up being like all wetlands or something, because that would also be closer to potentially the Reno. It looked like maybe it was still 200 yards of road between the two of them, but 200 yards, yeah, maybe.
Hunting Hill, would like to take and redo the bridge that goes across the brook from the
Oh, that's a good one.
from the parking area is falling apart. And I'd love to take and find some way to take and get farm equipment into that field, because life basically now is not haying it. I think the original conservation easement restrictions said that it should be hayed, and they're not haying it. They're basically just cutting it once a year in the fall. And the forest is encroaching on the hayfield all around the edge, you know, as they do when you don't, you know, continually use a hayfield.
Is this the field in the back of the property, Mr. Chairman, or the field in the front between the bridge and
There's
the
a
parking
field
lot?
in the front, and here, here is, here is, this
Ah, I see, yeah.
here, this property here, and this property here are all part of Hunting Hills. And there is a bridge right here. This is where the parking area is, right here. There is a small, sort of stream here with a bridge across it. And then if you want to get over to this hayfield here, you have to take, and there's another sort of wetlands that comes down here. And you can get a tractor stuck in there if you're not careful. And so, and there's a barn right there, owned by the abutter there. But this is our piece of property here. This is our piece of property here. And those two pieces of property, what most people don't realize, that these two pieces of property were bought with state money and are under the state control, sort of. And this piece of
Yeah,
property,
wildlife conservation
yeah,
restriction.
wildlife conservation. This piece of property over here, we owned previously, at least that's my understanding, and that's not part of the state thing. Although Rich may know more about that. You were on the commission, Rich, when this was acquired.
Mr. Chairman, were you referring to the small town forest or
I was referring to Hunting
abutter?
Hill. Hunting Hill.
When you were pointing to the other property, I understand what you're saying. That's one of the
Hunting Hill
parcels that
is
we
just-
call Hunting Hill, but still abuts the Womble property
it's-
that's privately owned.
Exactly. There's three.
I got it.
Hunting Hills is composed of three different parcels. This parcel, and this parcel. And it's my understanding that this parcel and this parcel were purchased by the 3-town grant or the 2-town grant. And that this parcel, I think it is a 3-town grant, and that this parcel was owned by the Conservation Commission previously.
So,
but
Mr.
we
Chair,
don't
I would
have the-
just have to look quick, because the Hunting Hill area was created with the purchase of that land, but I think that the town may have placed the two pieces of property that they owned into that Hunting Hill
Okay,
wildlife management area.
all right.
Because I
Okay.
believe that's how it's also shown on the Massachusetts hunting maps.
Yeah.
That is a WCE, I think it is, a wildlife conservation.
Right,
easement.
right.
And I
Yep.
think it's all three parcels.
Okay,
So
thank
they,
you, Rich.
so I'm not sure. I'd have to review it quick to see if the three towns had say, or the three parties. I don't believe it's the three towns. I think it's Mass Wildlife, Shirley, and Lunenburg are the three parties.
Yeah, the three parties.
Correct. And I don't know if the two parcels that the town owns are in that triumvirate or not.
Well, they
Oh.
definitely are shown on the state wildlife land as under a WCE.
Yeah,
I was just
all three-
looking at that a
all
couple of
three
days ago.
parcels are, but I don't remember if control of the two Lunenburg parcels remained with Lunenburg, and just the rules and regulations of the WCE applied to them, or if those parcels are under the control of the three parties.
Oh, I
just-
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you just need to review the conservation easement.
And that can be done. I have that on my hard drive.
Yeah, I know copies are flying around, and there's still
Yep.
one in the registry of deeds. It's pretty accessible.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, so up in that area where you've kind of circled in red the two maybe bridges, right?
Yeah.
If there are like places that tend to say wet and muddy, I wonder if there's not like an opportunity to potentially reroute the tractor route into that
Well,
hayfield to improve access.
to me, the very first thing that has to happen is something I've been talking about, haven't acted on, is to take a meeting with Shirley and Mass Wildlife. And to talk about haying that field, because the director of Mass Wildlife, I forget her name, their office is down on the way to Shirley on the left-hand side there, just past,
I think it's in
just
air,
past the
isn't it?
Bull- yeah, I'm sorry, down in air on the left-hand side, past Bull Run. And, her attitude is that, she's in charge and we have very little to say, about it. And, I don't, in fact, I was gonna take that up with town council about, how much say that Lunenburg actually has there, if I could take it, I can get Shirley to go along whatever we want, can we outvote her, or does she have the final say? Because she, tends to, have very definitive opinions and, very definitively she's in charge and you're not, so
Yeah, it'd be nice to really be clear on the balance of
Yeah.
power there. Coincidentally, I
I-
have been reaching out through some points of contact to Shirley's Conservation Commission and have made contact and I forget the name, and I don't have my email right in front of me, but they were asking if there were any kind of shared interest kinds of projects that were on our kind of radar. And this seems like fits that bill.
Yep. Cowdrey area, this year, Snow Riders has said they're gonna take it gravel and redefine the existing. Oh no, that's not part of this.
Oh yeah, gravel. I had on the grant gravel in Mulpus Road parking lot and
Yeah,
the
the
2A
Mulpus
parking
Road,
lot.
that's this stuff down, somewhere down here. Oh, add gravel to the Cowdrey parking lot on Mulpus Road and Mass at the muddy puddle areas.
Yeah.
So this is part of the grant, of the current grant. And one thing we could do is we could do a planning grant here again, where we take and we apply for the money to pay the engineer to take and redo the road back to the Townsend, back to the Harley Wildlife Viewing Platform. If we're gonna do that, I think we should consider passing new rules to allow vehicles live viewing platform during daylight hours.
Yeah, I think that
you know,
makes
if it's
no parking after dark or whatnot.
Yeah. Because if it's gonna be for handicap use, we're not gonna tell them, well, you have to park up by Townsend Harbor Road and then walk 600 feet.
Right.
Back to your wildlife viewing platform. At least I don't think we would.
No.
And then there's some other trail work that needs to be done in Cowdrey, but that's not really grant material. Clark's Hill is nothing really. Lane and Large Town Forest, I didn't get to this when I was sort of poking away at this, trying to, but we could take and look at redoing the culverts down there. But I put up signs, this past, like in the last 2 months, I put up signs on all three, asking the public to try and make sure they stay clear. Because if the public keeps them clear when they go by, need to replace them. The problem comes is that they get overgrown or and then it washes out the road. But if the culverts remain clear, I don't think we will need to replace them, so.
And I did measure that area, and just for the purposes of sharing, it's about 400 feet through there.
And we could also do something at the beginning there where, when the club put in the existing culverts right by the parking spot, they're not located in the right spot, so that the water still continues to flow over the road right there at that low spot before you go up the first hill down.
Right,
between-
and there's a lot of ice that,
Yeah.
water pools in the winter, there's a lot of ice, and I've landed hard a couple of times down there.
Yeah, so-
Luckily,
I
I
mean, that-
bounced, just like Tigger's.
So maybe we could look at, redoing, sooner rather than later, an immediate grant, to take, putting some better culverts and raise the road bed so that the water actually flows through the culverts and not over the road.
I think that's easy. That's kind of low hanging fruit.
I'm glad you think so. I'm not sure if we need a trails. There's an existing kiosk. Mary showed me a picture. Mike, do you know if there's a kiosk up there that is in the appropriate place for a trails kiosk?
There is.
Hollis Road?
It's right by the parking area.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. It's kind of set in a ways. I mean, looks like it could be updated. But there is a sign that calls for pollinator habitat and
See,
sometimes it gets a little overgrown, but we've tried to trim some of the grasses around it, but
I'm looking to take in, at least I'm proposing, in a trails map that shows the loop trail that's gonna be left there after the logging operation is done. And mark it. And put up the "You Are Here" map signs. And a kiosk, with the land use rules. And, with the trail map sign on it, similar to conservation properties we have. Do we have room for that, or is it all pollinator habitat stuff?
I think there's certainly, because I noticed that there is that loop trail. In fact, I took it for, it's a little bit overgrown, but I've seen people actually go on it. But I didn't take it all the way, so I don't know where it goes.
Yeah,
I would always put a little disclaimer, be careful of the ticks. There are a lot of ticks there. In fact, I got 2 in my just going through there, but I'm sure that's the case everywhere in Lunenburg on trails.
yeah.
So Mike, the last time I was up there, I look at kiosk now since I had to build a few. And I looked at the kiosk when we went through, and you took us on that nice little tour of the pollinator habitat. It seemed to me like the current kiosk, and I think the kiosk is in a great location, Bob. It's right next to the parking, and you'll
Yes.
recall that as you come in off of Hollis Road, there is that nice, lovely sign right there at the roadside that designates
Yep.
the entrance to the parking area. And then once you park, there's that kiosk there that tells you all kinds of lovely stuff about the pollinator habitat. And I think it's mostly full. I mean, at least 50% full. And my observation of the new kiosks that were put up, over this past year or so, is that just putting trail information, trail usage information, the safety and all that other kind of stuff, that takes up just about all of one side of a kiosk as well. So maybe there's an opportunity for 2 kiosks there. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're using volunteer labor, we can be a little greedy, I think.
The other question I have is there anything there that says that it's the Hawes Conservation Area? Because everyone's been calling it Hollis Road, but our official name, because it was given to us by the Hawes family, is the Hawes Conservation Area. Do we have a sign there anywhere to conservation area?
I don't recollect that,
I
Mr.
don't-
Chair. So that would be a good opportunity because the kiosks get busy real quickly once you put, some information on them.
Yep,
So if there was a second kiosk next to the current one, and you could display the Haas property on it, and leave other information about the trail, that would be great.
Yeah. You know, with Reno, I was thinking we could do a planning grant, you know, again, hire, get a quote from Dillis and Roy to do, the driveway, entrance, the driveway permit in the parking lot. And, because we'll need to take, I believe that, the town land use director is gonna want us to take and apply to the planning board. Anytime we want to put in a parking lot, even though it's just gonna be gravel. And the DPW director has shown that he wants engineered plans for his driveway permits. So, which to me is a total waste of money, but, any
Mis-
rate, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, is there still a house on the piece of the Reno property that abuts Northfield Road?
No,
No? Oh, that's
No.
that adjacent little corner that the kind of the house that's in
Chelsea.
disuse is located.
see, this is the Reno property. This is actually the, what's the name of this? It's the, Hirsch. This piece of property here was donated by the Hirsch family. Whole piece of property back here is the Reno property. And this little square here is incorrect on the assessor's map. The assessor assumes that this little square right here was transferred to the Conservation Commission by Jeff, by Little Leaf Farms, but not Little Leaf, by Bright Farms. But that never happened. That actually is not our land. And so they're gonna log it, and we're gonna have a trail that goes all the way back here, and it's gonna have a little loop around the back like that. And, you know, so eventual goal is to connect through here to get to the Parks and Rec land, so then you can get over here and get to, so we could have it, so you could like park here, go down, go around here, go up here, and go all the way up through, to get through the Table Rock.
Excellent.
But that's something we could take and do into a planning grant there. And I think that's about it.
Mr. Chairman, it sounded like maybe there were 3 opportunities for planning grants for parking.
So what one would be for planning grant, in my opinion, would be for the Reno property, parking lot there, for an RD, for a NOI to take and improve the road back to the platform on Cowdrey and along the frontage of Table Rock.
Okay.
And I discussed all 3 of those with Greg Roy. And he was all good. He always said, no problem. But the other thing I was gonna do is I was gonna reach out to, I forget her name, Elizabeth. Well, she doesn't go by, she goes by Libby. Libby, the person at RTP, to make sure that this planning grant was viable. The questions there. One of
Elizabeth
it-
Knott. Is it not? She was on that call today.
Oh,
think it's-
yeah, Libby Knott.
Yeah.
She, because I want to make sure that we're not gonna get hung up, because one of the questions they ask you in the grant is, do you have permits? How many permits are needed? Do you have all permits? And the whole purpose of a planning grant is to get the engineered drawings so you can apply for the permit. So you can apply for the NOI in the case of the place and Table Rock. And so you can apply for planning and zoning permission in the case of Table Rock and Reno. Because I don't think we need an NOI, although we might need an NOI. Or maybe for the Reno parking area. You know, and
I
is
think
that-
that's an excellent idea, Mr. Chairman, if possible, and I know it makes it more complicated to coordinate with somebody else to do the call, but if possible, I'd like to be part of the call, just so
You
I
betcha.
gain from the experience.
Absolutely. I'll make it happen.
The night, when I write the grant, right, assuming we go forward with it, I make certain that I'm hitting the notes, you know, all the points,
Yep.
talking points as discussed too.
Any comments or questions on this somewhat of a monologue about, possible grant opportunities? I apologize for not getting it out so people could participate more.
So, Mr. Chair, are the deadlines for any of this or some of this the end of this month?
No, January, the end of
January.
January,
End of January. All right, thank you.
the end of January. And when I wrote our existing trails grant that I closed out, earlier this year, that took me about 2 weeks. And I didn't do much else for about a week, so.
Yeah, and I think the one that I wrote last year took me probably 4 weeks to do. But I mean, that was spread out kind of over those 4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Doing a little bit here and there.
Well, plus, in my view, I'm not interested in doing any more grants where we're doing in-kind donations and you have to work hard to come up with the in-kind donations. We have the fund. I'm just interested in, contributing 20% of the cost or the 10%, whatever it is, straight out of the timber rights fund, and hiring people to do the rest of it, so.
Well, I think that's an excellent strategy because we invest the 20% and then still get the additional 80% benefit through the
Yep.
grant. So it's a
Yep.
good way to extend the fund budget we have.
Yeah, and the thing we're doing next year with the trail riders is, to me, is amazing because the labor that the trail riders provide, putting up the kiosks or fixing the bridges, is just invaluable. You can't put a price on that. So I mean, if you did put a price on it, it would be tens of thousands of dollars. So it's creating something out of nothing just because of the goodwill of the volunteers. So.
I think we put everybody but Mike to sleep, Mr. Chairman.
I think we probably have. If there's no further discussion, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wait. First, comments, folks.
Too late.
Any comments from members of the commission? There are no members of the public. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Mike.
Roll call, Rich,
All right.
Mike,
Aye. Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
We have a very light agenda next time, I think. So, I provide us the opportunity, to talk about this some more, especially if, I and/or Mary can, get our act together and have something for you to review in advance of the meeting. Good night.
Good
night.
night. Thank you.
Hope you feel better, Bob.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, I'm much better.
Thank you.
Good night.
Hey, Bob.
Yes,
Hey, I did happen to just send out a copy of that order of conditions for the Cove Road
yeah.
from 1995 with my signature on it.
Oh, you mean the one where he said there was no prior wetlands delineation and
Yes.
all that other nonsense?
Yep. So there clearly was, because there was clearly a filing and a notice of intent for it. So
Yep, yeah, well, he made all, I don't see a lot of future. Well, first, let me stop the recording. Where's the recording? Well, first, let's stop the screen sharing. Stop the share. Let's stop the recording.